Shut up and sit down.
Got nothing here. You're giving me baseball and hockey, and I got my keister blowing in the wind. I made to look like a fool here.
Life is better on a bicycle. Life is better on a bike. When you push the pedal and go down the hill, then everything is alright.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. Tommy Godwin, an English long-distance cyclist, once said riding a bike is everything to a cyclist. The friendship and camaraderie you have with other cyclists, to a cyclist, is the be-all and end-all of your life. Preach on, brother.
Okay, you're riding your bike down the hill. The sun is shining. The wind is blowing in your hair. You see a red light up ahead, so you must stop.
Everybody's looking at my tight pants. Got my tight pants. Got my tight pants on.
Carry on. Life is better on a bicycle. Now I think that I might get a bell on the front that goes ring, ring. That's the type of bike that I like. With a bell on the front that goes ring, ring. That's the type of bike that I like.
I'm feeling like a star, you can't stop my shine. I'm flying cloud nine, my head's in the sky. I'm solo.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von During, and I'm here with Lance, call me something stupid, Hepler.
Lance, call me something stupid. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, but this is good. Hey,
Hey,
I'm
you
here.
told me to say that.
I did. Call me something stupid.
Hey, coming to us over the Verizon network today, sponsored. Yeah, no, maybe. Mr. Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Sorry that you don't look so good. I just can't see you guys. I assume that you guys look good, I guess.
We
but
look digital.
That's just what we're going with today.
Yeah. Do we need to put you over the FaceTime, Matt? Did you want to see what's going on here, or do you just want to listen to our ugly faces?
That's fine.
He's seen enough of my face.
Right on. Hey, we got lots of stuff to talk about today. We've got no Evan Price, just the three of us, so the back pedal is going to go relatively quick.
No, I got hundreds of stories.
I should have guessed. All right, let's go with Matt first.
Let's go with Matt first.
Because
I can be really quick.
Go for it.
I can't think of anything that I've done that's been interesting at all. Swam a fair amount. I've been going up to cross country practice and biking up there a lot. Yeah,
That's
I biked
cool.
with a group on Saturdays because I've tried to sneak in a bike ride before cross country practice, and because I was late to cross country practice, I had to hammer all the way back to practice, and I was looking at my watch, and I was like, not bad.
Ooh.
Not good, but not bad. It's one of those things where I was like, I've got to hold 200 watts on the way home just because we're in a, that's nothing for you guys. That's warm up pace. That's zone 2 for you guys. But for me, that's like, okay, that's, we're working a little bit. So there was that.
You.
Yep.
Cool. Right on. Anything else?
That's it.
Moving on.
Wow.
Lance, you're going to go last. My back pedal was nothing special easier than easy should be of a week for me. I am kind of quasi-injured a little bit. I've been dealing with this quad strain, and then that's like kind of turned into a hip flexor IT band issue, and I've just now finally got the quad thing resolved, and the IT band and the hip flexor are still a bit of an issue. Working that out. Felt a little bit better last night when we did our little gravel ride because we were actually recording this on Wednesday. So
It is Wednesday, September 7th.
yeah, it was a busy week. We had Labor Day and all that other
Yep.
stuff. But it ended up turning into one of those weekends where I really couldn't ride much. I think I rode on the trainer once, and I did a outside ride for about an hour and 15 minutes just trying to get things sorted out and just trying to tell myself, take it easy. And it turned it into one of those weeks where you're frustrated and you're mad and you're upset because the weather's perfect and you can't go out and ride. So I took out all my frustration and anger on house projects. It was a fantastic weekend for house projects at our house.
You got some stuff done now.
Oh, I got all the things done. So there was a sense of relief and gratification there. But other than that, it was a crappy week for riding bikes. Bummer.
I had lots of people ask me where you were.
Or what?
Where, like at the race last night.
Oh, really?
I'll get to that. But yeah, where's Jake? How come he's not here? I'm like, well, one, he doesn't have a cyclocross bike. What? He owns a bike shop. Why doesn't he have a cyclocross bike? Well, it's not that simple.
Yeah, there's no cyclocross bikes to be had.
There isn't.
It's crazy. So
all these manufacturers are moving their gravel bike lines, and the cyclocross bike lines aren't doing a whole lot. So.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer. I was supposed to go to the race the Hetmere race over in Vancouver Lake this past week, and I got up early to get all of my stuff done, and I did a fantastic job. And then all of a sudden, wife's like, we need to get a new fridge, and this is the weekend to get it. All of the online searches say that you have to buy refrigerators on Labor Day weekend because that's the best time of the year to buy them, and ours is kind of crapping out. I'm like, crap. All right.
She's not wrong. Labor Day sales.
Yeah. It's just before they announce like the upcoming model years for refrigerators, I guess. And they're trying to get rid of older product or prior year product. And I really don't care much about it. As long as it makes our food cold and kicks out some ice cubes when you need it, that's all I need. They wanted some other little things and whatnot, but I don't care about all the new latest and greatest stuff. But anyway, long story short, we found something, and it just took all day long, so I didn't get a chance to go out there and watch everybody race. Bummed about that.
We had quite a few people that were out there.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Lance.
Yes.
Backpedal.
So, this last week, I had plans to ride with the team. I did the team gravel ride. My ribs were slowly healing and feeling better. I still can't move in certain ways without pain, but it could feel like I could ride okay without pain. So, I mean, I did the team gravel ride, and I felt great. Yeah. I didn't feel too bad. So I actually went to cross practice on Wednesday night, and with the team, which was also a lot of fun. Me and Paul ripped a few laps, and it was nice to have cross practice. And I was fully expecting to stick around and do the cyclocross race that was here in Vancouver this weekend. I woke up Thursday morning, and Rebecca's Private Idaho has a stage race, and it starts on Thursday morning. Mm-hmm. And my wife came to me Thursday morning. She's like, "Are you seeing all the people that are at Rebecca's Private Idaho on Instagram?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks like a whole lot of fun." And she's like, "Why aren't we there?" And I'm like, "Well, I decided I wasn't going to do it this year. I was going to stick around here and do Hetmere, the cyclocross race." And she's like, "Lance, get in the van. We're going to go." I'm like, "Really? I can't." I go, "The race is like closed. The registration's closed. I can't get in. You need to, no, we're not." She's like, "No, we'll figure it out." We get in the van. So by 3:00, it took most of the day because we had stuff to do. But by 3:00 in the afternoon, we were in the van and driving to Idaho.
Yeah, I texted lads, "Hey, you going to the flogging ride tonight?" And I get this GPS coordinate thing showing his car moving through. Where were you at the time?
I was in Prineville.
Yeah,
which is not on the way, but we had to take a detour because of fires.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's another story.
What are you doing? Where are you going?
Yeah, so we had jumped in the van. I showed up. I during the drive, I was like reaching out to the organizers at Rebecca's Private Idaho saying, "Hey, is there any way I can get in? I've been dealing with injuries this year, and I broke some ribs, so I wasn't sure I was going to go, but now I think I can be there, and I know registration is cool." I sang my sob story, and for whatever reason, they let me in. They let me into the race, which was very grateful. I did not.
You're Lance freaking Hepler.
I'm Lance freaking. I'm like, "Don't you know who I am? Did you recognize this terrible mustache?" No, I think it helped that I've done the race 4 times in the past.
Yeah, and
like, hey, this is whatever. They let me in. I was really fortunate they let me in. I didn't do the stage race because I had missed the first stage. But I got into the race on Sunday. There's a 100-mile race, there's a 56-mile race, and a 20-mile race. And I chose just to do the 56-mile race. But I'll get to that because there's some other really good stories here. On Friday morning, the stage race is an uphill time trial, a 5-mile uphill time trial. But to get to the uphill time trial spot, you have to ride with the group. It's like neutral 20-mile rollout. So everybody just gets together. There's about 350 people in the stage race, and we all just roll out of Ketchum, Idaho, up this gravel road for 20 miles until we get to the spot where we're doing the time trial. And it's neutral, and so I knew that was going to happen, so I just showed up and rode with the group out to the time trial. And when we got to the time trial spot, I rode halfway up the time trial and just cheered on friends as they came through and people I knew. So I wasn't planning on being there. And on the ride out, I end up having a big, long conversation with Molly Cameron. She's all excited that I was there. We've become friends over the last few years because we've ended up at a lot of events together, which is kind of cool. And I had a long conversation with Yuri Hosfold because he wasn't expecting to see us, and we've become friends too. And then I talked to Carl Decker for a while. It was just, all I'm going to do is name drop for the next 5 minutes. If there was somebody big in gravel at this race, I was able to have a conversation with him. And that's one of the cool things about these gravel events, especially these multi-day gravel events, is there's this downtime where you have a chance where you can hang out with people and get to know them better. So I just had a great time riding with everybody and hanging out there. On the way back, I ended up riding with Payson McKelvin and Brennan Wirtz, who had taken first and second in that stage today. I was riding right next to Braden Lang, who is also a pro gravel racer. He's into Lifetime Fitness, and Braden Lang actually lived for his first 11 years of life in Camas, Washington, so we had some things to know about. And Scott Troutman, who is on our team, is a big supporter of Braden Lang, so I got to have a long conversation with him. And then it was, oh my gosh, on the way back, there's some hot springs, and it's the cool thing to do is you stop at the hot springs and you roll out there in your chamois and you lay down in the. It was just fantastic. And then from the hot springs back, there is it was like another 10 miles back to town, and I ended up riding that with Andrew Lesperance. I can't even say his name right. Lesby. He was in the lead of the race, and him and Haley Hunter Smith, who are Andrew and Haley are married. They're from Canada. They're both professional mountain bikers, but they've been in the Lifetime Grand Prix Fitness Series this year, the Grand Prix Series, and she won all 3 stages this weekend. So I got to have a conversation with her and with Lesby, and I mean, it was just like I was just like a kid in a candy store talking to all these like gravel pros and all these cool people, and I just had a fantastic time. So so the race, I did the race on Sunday. I did not do the 100-mile race because I did not think my ribs could handle it. It was another reason for me to skip that first cyclocross race here in town, Hetmere, because there's big running sections in that, and I'm not sure that my back
sand and off-camber stuff, and yeah, I'm
not sure that my back is going to handle big running sections this year. So I'm going to have to be a little more selective about which cyclocross races I do. And I knew if I did a gravel race, it's different. It's just power. It didn't bother my back so much. So, but regardless, I did the 56-mile race. We had a teammate out there with us. Terry Hamness was there, so we got to hang out with him in one of my favorite places in the world, which is that whole Sun Valley, Idaho area. That whole Wood River Valley is just pretty amazing. But the 56-mile course, there was about 400 people in it, which was kind of surprising. The big one had about 600 people. The 100-mile race had about 600 people. The 56-mile race had about 400, and of course I started on the front row because I'm Lance freaking Hepler. I kind of just positioned myself so that I could start up close, and it starts with a big like 5-ish mile climb. That's like a 30-minute climb for me, and the fast people do it in like 22 minutes. And so of course I got dropped by the field, but I ended up there's a big, long downhill. I don't know, how many of these stories do you want me to tell, Jake?
It's up to you, man.
It's too much. Matt, am I boring the heck out of you?
Well, what? I wasn't paying attention, Lance.
That sounds about right. So the 56-mile course, it had about 4,500 feet of elevation, so it certainly wasn't flat. Started with a big climb. I lost the front group. There were about 50 people that went off ahead of me. in that first climb. But after you get over the first climb, there was a 12-mile downhill gravel descent. Well, that's kind of my jam. So, of course, I just put my head down and ripped down this descent. It's straight. There's not a lot of turns. The visibility was good. So, I mean, I was doing like 36 miles an hour down this descent. And I got to a spot where it had leveled out a little bit, and I was passing just dozens and dozens of people on this downhill. And we got to a point on the downhill where it was about 1%, and I was doing like 28 miles an hour, and I turned around to look behind me to see if there's people who want to share the load with me. There were 20 people on my wheel. So as I passed them, not very fast, people were kind of jumping on, which was totally fair and totally fun, and we had a good time. And then I ended up trading poles with a few guys for 3 or 4 miles. But that group of 20, I ended up dropping them on the next rolling section. Just if there's not big climbs and it's just rolling, that kind of suits me. And so I ended up dropping that group, seeing a bunch more people. On the way back to town, I ended up hooking up with like the lead women, the lead women who were in the French fry race, in the 56-mile race. It was called the French fry because this is Rebecca's Private Idaho, and Idaho is known for its famous potatoes. I feel like I've taken drugs. I'm talking so fast, and I don't even have any caffeine in my system. But it's no big surprise. But on the way back, I ended up with some of the lead women, and one of the lead women is Amanda Perino, who is the wife of Steve Perino. And if you watched the Tour de France coverage this year, Steve Perino was the NBC correspondent who did all the fun fluff pieces where he visited the beer tents, and he stopped and talked to people on the side of the road. They were
sprinters or
the
sometimes
sprinter vans.
Families. And
yes.
Just yeah.
So that's Steve Perino. He did all that stuff. And Steve and Amanda were riding together. So I got to ride with them for about 20 miles as well. And we traded pulls for a while because they were trying to win the duo category, which they have a category there where 2 people can hook up, and they have to finish within 30 seconds. They have to stay within 30 seconds of each other for the whole race. And then it's so that's another kind of unique thing that Rebecca's Private Idaho does. But anyway, long story short, I ended up dropping them on the last climb, which is kind of surprising. I felt way better than I expected I did with these broken ribs and all these issues I had this year. And out of those 400 people, I crested that final climb, and then it was a 10-mile downhill to the finish, which I ended up trading poles with a guy where we were both eyeing each other up to sprint it out at the end, but I ended up just not being able to stay with him. He beat me by like 2 seconds.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny, that downhill section, I ended up having like the 4th fastest time of the entire day out of all the pros and everybody, because later in the day when the pros came through, there was a much stiffer headwind, and so don't think I'm fast downhill, but I'm not as fast as the pros. So, but I ended up 13th out of those 400 people in that short race, way better than I thought. I got to stick around and watch Terry Hamness finish. I got to see the pros finish. I got to see I got to have more conversations with all these good. I had a nice little talk with Pace McKelvin a couple of times, who ended up winning the whole stage race. It was just gravel fanboy weekend in Idaho is what it was. So we ended up just kind of having a blast. So
sounds like a terrible weekend. Rough.
I thought, am I making a mistake missing this first cyclocross race and going to Idaho and doing something I've already done before? And man, I did not regret my decision at all. So
that sounds like a spectacular race.
It's so cool.
When you're fit, do you enjoy doing the full stage?
It is extremely difficult.
Yeah. So
I've done the full stage, the full 100-mile race 3 times, and I am wrecked after it every time. It's because 100 miles on gravel is hard. Doesn't matter who we are. Yeah. So last year I was pretty fit, and I still was only like 40th or 50th in the stage.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun.
Do you recommend that folks go out there and at least dip their toe in the water of just doing one of the races, or do they give you that option? Can you just pick and choose which one you want to do? Or
there were only 350 people in the stage race, but there was 1,000 on the Sunday race.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you can choose just to do the Sunday race and be part of the whole weekend. So
she's been doing this for a while.
It's 10 years.
10 years now, and it sells out just about every year, yeah?
It does.
Is she doing anything different than, say, any other gravel promoter out there?
One of the things she does, she's been very women-focused for the last few years, trying to just increase the number of women people they have. They also had a non-binary category in all the races.
Cool.
So that however people identified, they could register for, which was also very cool. They also had hand cycles, and like Dr. Meg Fisher, who is missing a leg.
Okay.
Para athletes.
Yeah.
They have a whole para athlete.
That's great.
Yeah. Section. So I don't know. She's Rebecca Rush. Everybody knows her. People want to be around her and be a part of it. So I think that's one of the big draws. But they also try to be very inclusive with everybody, which is gravel in general, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's just become so much more popular because of her and how big and good the race has gotten.
And it doesn't hurt that it's just beautiful country.
Sun Valley, Idaho is just amazing little valley. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And I've been a lot of places. So
right on.
Anyway.
Is that it?
After the race, Brandon and I jumped in the van and drove all the way home, and I came back and I did the first Portland Trophy Cup race last night.
Oh, yeah.
So our little cyclocross series, Portland Trophy Cup, it's a nighttime race, which is super fun to race under the lights. My race, the 50-plus race, was before sunset, so I didn't have to race in the pitch dark. But Portland Trophy Cup is a riot. There was a huge turnout last night, much more than in years past. I raced in the 50-plus field, and in years past, there's about 15 or 20 racers in that field. Last night, there were 45.
Wow.
So more than double of what it usually has.
How many years has it been since Trophy Cup has actually raced? Has it been, they missed the last 2 years? So it's been 3 years?
Yes, correct. The last race was in 2019, so they didn't do 20 or 21. And it's been around since 2014, I think, is when the race started. Great. It's just it's your normal party atmosphere, cyclocross race, under the lights. So it was a ton of fun. I don't know where I finished last night yet, because as of Wednesday, right now it is noon on Wednesday, and the results have not been posted yet. And I think out of that 45, I was somewhere in the top 10. I had some great battles, and we had a lot of teammates out there, and we just had a blast. So
awesome.
Good times.
Is that it?
Yes, please. I'm sick of hearing myself talk. I had a great week. Much better than last week when all I did was barely survive these broken ribs. So
all right, cool.
I have to think to myself after hearing that. It seems to me like you're back to your normal ways after your injury of hopping in the van, doing something cool, racing home to race again. Like, that just sounds like a story. And you're back in, that's 100% you. I'm glad your ribs, even if they aren't feeling better, I'm glad they're feeling better, because it's not holding you back.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah. It's better. I'm feeling better than I suspected I would be at 3 weeks out from the injury. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next thing here.
Champ Bailey. Top 5.
Champ here. Top 5 discussion.
Champ, are you here?
Champ is here.
What's up, Champ?
There are some race results to talk about. First thing we're going to talk about is the Vuelta a España. Matt, have you seen any of these stages at all?
I haven't watched anything, but I've just been kind of watching the headlines. Remco Evenepoel, seems like they were like pulling him back, but I wasn't sure. Like it was kind of looking like, oh, he might still hold on to it. That's kind of like the overall gist of what I've seen. but I've watched 0 stages.
I've actually watched at least highlights or most of every stage. So it's been fun to watch because I don't know. It's the Tour of Spain. It's very cool. Remco Evenepoel is still in the lead. His biggest rival, Primož Roglic, who is the 3-time defending champion, unfortunately crashed yesterday with like 70 yards to go in the race, and he did not start the race today. So he is out at stage 17 today. It's kind of interesting. Remco has been losing time this week in little chunks, like 25 seconds to Roglic, who's been attacking at the ends of these mountain stages. And yesterday's stage, it really was a completely flat sprint stage that ended with like one little like 400-meter rise. And Roglic attacked on the rise and dropped Remco and had like a 30-second, no, not 30 second. He had like a 10-second lead on them. And then all of a sudden, Remco got a flat tire and sat up.
Like air quotes, flat tire?
I'm not sure. Everybody was kind of wondering did he really have a flat tire? Was he losing time? And they were within the 3Ks of the finish, so you get the same time as the group that you were in. And so, Remco ended up sitting up, waiting for his team car, getting a different bike, and riding in.
Knowing full well that it's going to get the same time.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that it had to be a crash, not a mechanical.
Mechanicals.
They fall under that.
Yeah, in that 3K, apparently it falls in. So, unfortunately, Roglic was. There were 5 people off the front. They had pulled, and he was just pulling into behind them with like 80 yards to go, and he like clipped somebody's handlebars, and he went down hard. And so he finished like a minute and a half later too. He got up, he's bleeding all over himself. He didn't look like anything was broken, but you couldn't really tell. They haven't released anything yet, whether he really injured something, but he didn't start today. And so he ended up he was given not the same time, but dipped like 8 Remco only lost 8 seconds instead of like the 4 minutes that he actually rolled across. So anyway, that was kind of disappointing. So
That is very much a bummer.
yeah.
Going back to Remco real quick, would you put that past him to pull that kind of?
I don't know.
There's speculation, and they're like, oh, yeah, they saw his bike on the team car, and the tire was flat. But, I mean, that's just a very simple, let me get your bike back from you, and, hey, make sure you take all the air out of that tire.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so your tire gets soft, and you can't ride 3 more K to get in. It would seem more likely that, okay, the tire started to go soft. He knew that he couldn't stay with the group because it was soft.
Yeah.
And so it was smarter for him at that point to pull off and get a new bike and get the same time than try to stay with them with a soft tire.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
But would I put it past him for pulling something shady? I don't know. He's suspect. What do you think, Matt?
I would just lean on whatever Evan would say, and I'm pretty sure Evan would throw this guy under the bus.
Yes, he would.
Be crushing him right now.
So it's interesting to see what'll happen there. There's still the rest of this week to go, and there's still another time trial, and there's still some mountaintop finishes. So we'll have to kind of roll and see what happens here. So kind of interesting. Let's other results. Rebecca's Private Idaho, the stage race was won by Payson McKelvin. He was second in all 3 stages. He didn't win any of the stages. He was second in all 3, but he ended up winning the stage race, which is the first big race that Payson has won since I want to say the rule of 3 last year. It's been a while since he's won a big race. He's always been in the mix, but hasn't won one. So good for him. I think second was Brennan Wirtz, and third was Andrew L'Esperance, which I just butchered his name. He's French, but he's a mountain bike stud, and now I can't ever talk to him again because I can't say his name. On the women's side at Rebecca's Private Idaho, it was won by Haley Smith, and she's also come to the mountain bike side. I think second was Serena Gordon from Bend, races for Live Cycling, and third was I can't remember at the moment, and now I'm going to be in major trouble. Emma Grant was third, I believe. So good on them. Local races, we did have our Hetmere race, and we had 20 or 25 teammates that were out there.
Yeah, good showing.
Good showing. Laura Mullen won the Masters Women 50 race, which was fantastic. Weirman took second in the Clydes.
Who beat Chris in the Clydes?
Chris was not there because his son had a NICA mountain bike race in Newport.
No, I'm talking about Weirman. You said he got second in the Clydes.
He got second in the Clydes. Yeah, there's another fast Clyde. I think his name's Jason Evans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So somebody beat him. But the big team result for Dialed Cycling was unexpected. Nate Scott, Mr. Watts, has he raced the 2-3 field for the first time ever and won handily. Well done, Nate.
Nate crushed that. Well, so I'm told that I think there's like a lap or two to go, and he was trailing the leader by not very much, and one of our teammates chirped out him like, "You're only 5 seconds back," and then he just summoned something inside of him and just buried himself and came in and passed the guy and got the win. That's a fantastic result. So.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's too funny. So
cool.
Yeah, so lots of fun.
I'm really bummed that I couldn't do that race.
Couldn't make it out there?
You know, well, not only to just take pictures and see the team and all that stuff, but just race, because I really like that race. I mean, I think that's a race that suits me pretty well, and I didn't get to go.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer. So.
The elite race was won by Ian Brown. He came over from Bend. I think he's 18 now, or he's 17 now, and
race age 18.
Race age 18.
He's been a beast for a while.
So
has he gotten picked up by anybody yet?
Yeah, he's on a development team,
okay.
Cascadia development team, and trying to get in with Trek's pro team. So, and he's got a shot at it.
Okay.
So he's going to be doing some bigger races this year as well. And the women's race was won by Jenna Lingwood.
Okay.
So she was out there ripping it too. So.
Awesome.
Other than that, I don't know. Were there any other results? No. Champ out.
Champ is out.
Matt, did anything happen in triathlon? Oh, sorry. We're out of time.
There's so much going on in triathlon. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Oh,
well,
all right.
Evan's off to go do a race. That's why he's not here today. So we'll have a results thing next week?
Yes.
So
I think he went to Santa Cruz is what I assume. Is that right, Matt? Was he going to Santa Cruz?
Yep, that's the big one for him. I think that's kind of like his biggest thing. I think that some of the shorter stuff, like Super League stuff, just started.
Okay.
This for the stuff, and so they had their first race in London. I don't have any results for you, but Hayden Wild maybe.
Gotcha.
Anyway, you guys don't care. You don't care.
No,
I don't
really.
think there was as far as I know, there wasn't any big Ironman races this past weekend. But yeah, let's see. I think Ari, Clow, and Evan Price and Eric Lagerstrom are all racing next weekend, and that will be, Eric. I'd say no. I guess Evan's probably the headliner for that particular race. So see how he does. I actually think he'll do really well. He's in good shape.
He is in good shape. He's been training very well and very fit right now. So let's hope he can put one together. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be great to get a race report from him on the next podcast.
Yes.
See what we can do. It might be tricky because of his travel schedule.
Sweet. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Let's move on to the next thing. Hey, we've got another poster to give away.
Oh, we do.
We do. So,
From the Dylan Wiggins. Oh, did you see Dylan Wiggins' YouTube thing that he put up today? You'll have to go check out Dylan's YouTube channel.
That was hilarious. And I think Matt's comment on that was spot on. Matt, do you want to let us know what your comment was on that?
Bill Wiggins posted a video, and it's got like romantic music in the background or something. I can't remember the exact music
It's
that he used.
Enya. It was Enya.
It was, so fantastic music choice, and then it's just like kind of slow motion. Actually, even the lighting is good with the rear camera shot, and it happens to be just kind of into the sun or whatever. But it's a nice shot, glorious shot, and it's just Lance passing him, flipping him the bird, consecutive the whole pass, and then switching to the front camera where Lance is still flipping him the bird as he passes, and all set in ya, and post it to YouTube for your viewing pleasure. It is definitely worth a watch.
Clap Face 2.
It's only like a 25-second video or something, and I was
titled the best cyclocross pass ever or something along those lines. Yeah.
It was on the last lap, I believe, or the second to last lap, and he had started in the wave in front of me, so like 30 seconds in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm finally catching him, and I see that he's got a camera on his seat posted, so as a joke in love to be funny, I flipped him off the whole way by, and he just laughed at me when I went by. It was funny.
He's been laughing his arse off when he saw that on the video. So cool. All right. Well, anyway, it's time to do a little Patreon drawing, and we can do that right now.
All right.
We have a flogging poster created by the one and only Dylan Wiggins.
Yes.
Mr. Quapface 2. And he presented that to us a couple weeks ago. And I wanted to give that away to one of our Patreons. And I've got our little jar of peoples here right now. Do you want to pull it? Do you want me to? Go for it, Lance. All right. Here's a bunch of our current
winner
Patrons.
of the flogging poster is John Hatfield.
John Hatfield. Nice. You are the proud winner of that. You can swing by and pick that up, or we can figure out a way to get that to you, John Hatfield. Yeah. You're going to love that poster.
You're going to love it.
It's one of my favorite ones that he did.
It's pretty cool.
It's very, very well done.
Thank you, Dylan.
Patreon stuff, if you want to be a patron, you can go to doubtpodcast.com, click on the Patreon link, follow that over to the different options that you can choose from, and become a patron yourself and help support the show. We greatly appreciate that. We'll continue to do more drawings and, good times. All right, enough of that. Moving on.
All
right, topic for the day. Guys, I have some bad news. It's getting close to that time of year. Crappy weather.
And yet it's somehow like 90 degrees each day.
But you can still feel it in the air.
95 yesterday here.
Something like that. But you can still feel it in the air. Like in the morning when you get up, it's like a little bit crisp. It's a little bit cold.
Yes.
I'm like, ooh, that feels like a little bit of fall in the air. And that just is that subtle reminder like, oh, yeah, we've already passed Labor Day and the weather's going to start getting pretty crappy. And next thing you know, it's going to be 42 degrees and raining all the time. And we're going to have to like do this whole bike riding thing. Probably a lot of it indoors or outside when it's crappy weather out. And it's really hard to keep yourself motivated after a certain amount of time of doing that. Like when you get to like December, January, you're like, I'm so over this. And like, you're just relishing that one nice day that you can go outside, and maybe even getting to spring where you can like shed a layer and it's not rain on you. So anyway, we wanted to talk about this. I ran across an article in Triathlete Magazine. I thought this was kind of an interesting topic, and I wanted to see if you guys had some things to add to it as well. But the topic is, or the title of it is 6 ways to trick your brain into actually liking your workouts. And during the summertime or like late spring or early fall, that's not a hard thing to do. I mean, barring like being burnt out or fatigued or hurt or something like that. Sometimes that'll maybe cause some issues. But when all things are good, weather's good, and you're out training, it's not hard to convince yourself to like your workouts when you're outside, because generally speaking, you're either enjoying some nice weather, some nice scenery, doing it with friends, and it's a lot easier to pass the time. But when you've got to do the same thing indoors and you have to sit on a trainer for hours on end, or if you've got to go outside and ride in like, again, 42 degrees and raining, it's hard to do that time after time after time. So I wanted to run through this and see what your guys' thoughts were in terms of what the article has to say, and then see what you guys have to lend to this whole topic. I'm going to be listening closely because I get in those ruts as well. I'm like, I don't want to go do this. And you'll go do your workout. Next thing you know, you're like, turn it off, not doing road mode. I'm going to finish out this hour. I'm going to turn it off, get off, and just move on because I'm done. So maybe there's something here, some little nugget of wisdom, something that you guys can lend to us or the listeners out there to help them get through the stuff that's pending. It's coming. It's almost here. And I hate to tell you, but it's almost here.
It's almost here.
All right. So go ahead, Matt.
To know, Jake, from triathlete.com.
Yeah. So we'll see what kind of quality suggestions they have here.
Quality.
All right. So their first one, which I thought was kind of a good thing. I mean, come up with like a reward for yourself. And their thing is, the tip number one is a reward raffle. So kind of put in like a bunch of different things that you can put in like this little like, jar of whatever, like a little Patreon jar here with all the names in it. And if you finish your ride successfully, then you get to go pull something out there and you get to have whatever that said thing is. And maybe it's not just things that you put in there. Maybe you can have some other people put some stuff in there. Like, maybe your kids are going to do the dishes for you or someone's going to fold the laundry for you because you finished your workout. Maybe there's something in there. I don't know. Or Lance will put in there like, new power meter, new bicycle,
Bike, the whole
a road trip to Utah.
There you go. One of the rewards I give myself for indoor workouts is sauna time, and that is not relatable to most people. And I'm so sorry, but I have I have a sauna at my house.
Yeah,
and the health benefits from the sauna are much better if your body temperature is already up. And so the best thing with sauna work is if you do a hard workout, you're hot, you're sweaty, your body core temperature is already up, and then you go get right in the sauna for like 20 minutes right after that. Because it just helps with your blood production and your endurance levels, and you're not doing anything but just sitting in a room. So that can be very beneficial. But
it increases your plasma levels.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. It increases your plasma levels. So
yeah, I think it's like brings your blood capillaries closer to the skin and can reduce blood pressure and things like that long term. Good benefits to it.
So it's great. It's great in the wintertime to have the sauna, but I don't just go get in the sauna. I like to reward myself with the sauna, and so I will do a trainer workout before I go.
Do you give yourself anything in addition to being able to go into the sauna? Like you get to have this drink or this food or something like that? Or is it generally just you just go in there and chill?
Is go in there and chill.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that's not relatable. I'm sorry.
How about you, Matt? Do you ever reward yourself?
When I read this, I was immediately thinking like, ooh, you could put like a pint of beer or something on because the way they describe it in the article, it's like, you fold up 15 pieces of paper, 5 of them have rewards on it. So sometimes you get rewards and sometimes you don't. I've never done that before. I always feel like I don't know. I mean, I don't feel a huge need for rewards for doing a workout, but I will take any extra motivation for like getting started, I guess. And so I'm willing to try anything. But I've never tried this before as far as like the specific, recommendations for these kind of like the reward raffle. Yeah. So I can't really think of anything, after a long bike ride, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I will reward I don't really call it like a reward. I'm just like, yeah, I'll have a beer or something like that. You kind of feel like, oh, I earned it today, but I don't know if that's a good one because then you're negating some of the benefits of your actual workout. So I don't know. Do
you find it easier to do a workout with other people?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So kind of one of the things when I was that I've been just kind of stewing around on this is like we do our Tuesday night workouts on the bike and those I go to because I want to be there with my friends and I feel accountable to be there. What if we told everybody like, hey, at the beginning of the season, because there's usually 21 of these workouts that we have to do, maybe we did them into chunks of like, 3 blocks of 7, or maybe even smaller than that and say everybody kicks in, we'll say $21. So it's $1 per person that enters into this. And maybe you get like 50 people and there's going to be some money in there. And then we can have everybody, like you have to show up every single week You have to do all of the rides. You have to be present. You have to be there from start to finish. And then we'll take the money and we're going to buy a block of prizes for block A, B, C, however. And then, like, if you finish all of them, then you're in the raffle. And then if all the people that finish get their name thrown in there, then you pull it out of the hat, and then you get a prize based on what that money purchased. Something like that could be kind of fun.
That could be fun. It's like if you make it to all 7 workouts in this block,
Exactly.
then you get to be in the raffle for the prizes.
Yep, and we all chipped in like $21, and then it just kind of pays for those prizes.
What if we came up with, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything big. It could just be like something like socks. But I'm looking around my office at all the tech stuff. I bet we could come up with a giveaway where people don't have to, like, donate money necessarily.
Well, there's that too. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it, but I mean, you could just do some simple things too.
$1 each. No one would bat an eye at that for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I could lose some bike computers or some heart rate monitors or bike radar or. I just have a lot on my plate right now.
I think
I've got some stuff that I was going to drop off at the lab, and I'm like, we could giveaways with this stuff for sure. Especially if someone, I don't know, we can talk about how to do this. Maybe I like the idea of having like 7, 7, and 7, and having a raffle at each one. But we can come up with some fun ideas for sure.
Maybe, I think that if we kind of pool some stuff, because God knows I've got plenty of stuff down here at the lab, and I'm sure that we could get some other people to get on board with it as well that are different, partners or companies, manufacturers and whatnot. They're usually pretty generous. And this time of year too, they've usually got a little bit of an extra marketing budget. And if we're going to put that in there and we've got lots of people showing up, that could be a lot of fun. So let's put a pin in that one and let's talk about that a little bit more. And if anybody out there that's listening to this wants to join the rides, if you've got some ideas or some way to expand upon that, let us know. That'd be fun.
Yeah. And maybe they let them like choose between a couple of things because like, if the raffle is a bike radar, that's like cool. But like, I already have one and, like Jake doesn't need a bike radar, in all honesty. I think, but like if he had to choose between that and like a heart rate monitor, maybe he needs a heart rate monitor. Maybe his heart rate monitor is worn out. I don't know. But like, I feel like we could come up with something cool to do for giveaways that's not too difficult for us. But a raffle of some sort sounds like a really good idea.
So does that motivate you to want to show up to a ride or a workout? And maybe we can have multiple workouts throughout the course of the week too. I mean, who knows?
Anything for me, like, okay, we do this every year where we do like 100 days of ride or whatever. It's any challenge, and even if there's zero reward, like, it's like, oh, I can try to do that. That will be challenging for me to ride every day or whatever the challenge is. Like, I do get motivated by that stuff. It's not necessarily for the reward, just that there's like a little challenge out there and that's like, okay, I will be willing to, sacrifice whatever it is. Like I got to be here on time for this particular thing or else, it won't count for this or, especially for that, like 100 rides. When we do that block, is that from?
Well, you're kind of starting to step on my one last thing here, but I guess we'll go ahead and talk about that. It's going to start. I'm changing it up just a little bit this year. We've done it before where we started in the middle of August and we finished on Thanksgiving, and you're thankful for your 100 days of riding. I'm going to change it up to make it a little bit more challenging in that we're starting in, I think it's, don't quote me on this, I'll get the actual date before we finish this, but I think it's September 23rd or 26th or something like that, and then it'll have us finishing on New Year's Day. And the thought process was, all right, if we're going to do this 100 days of riding, let's do it through more crappy weather than getting like half of August and all of September and the early part of October when it's pretty nice and you really only have to endure, like 5-6 weeks of like crappy-ish weather.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
We're going to move it back a little bit. We're moving the goalpost. We're going to try something new.
I like it.
So
I think I made it the first year through the 100 days. And then the second year I made it through like 50 or 60 or something like that. And then something came up and I was like, whatever, like things come up, whatever, it's fine. But like they are motivating even if there's not reward. And so throw out a small reward and it might motivate people a little bit more. But I do, I like the article's concept of like self-reward and having a little bit random. Like every time you do a workout, you don't get a reward necessarily. Sometimes you pick a blank piece of paper. So maybe I'll try this. I do need to get motivated to do some of those indoor riding blocks. And I think that those are the type of workouts that, really help you get in shape. Right, Lance?
Yeah.
Something.
You know what can even make it even more interesting too would be like have your significant other, for me, my wife, have her make the list of things, and tell her like, hey, go ahead and throw in a couple crappy things there too. For your reward today, you get to go like mow the lawn or cut that tree down, something along those lines. That can be interesting, but just kind of keeping it fresh. But it could be kind of cool because they could throw some stuff in there that you weren't expecting. And,
That's true.
And maybe that's a little bit better of a reward. You're not giving yourself something. Somebody that you care about is giving you something. You're like, hey, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So different way to shake a stick at that one.
Matt,
do you want to read tip number 2 since you have that up right in front of you?
Pull that up. Set micro goals. Win dopamine. Yeah. Okay. So this is something that I think if you've been doing athletics or if you've been doing sport for long enough that you've probably figured out on your own. But just as a refresher, micro goals, in this case, they're talking about breaking up, long workouts and just saying like, hey, make it through the warm up part and then focus on like the next part, which is like just this 2-minute block hard. Don't start looking at the entire workout and telling yourself you're never going to be able to make the whole thing. And I think a lot of you guys, if you've, tackled anything hard, like breaking it up is a good way, like a good mental strategy to tackle it.
Gotcha. Lance, you got a 2 cents you want to add to this?
I a lot of these workouts, especially through this winter, if I don't have a race on the schedule or something I'm specifically training for, it's very hard for me to get through an entire workout. If I'm trying to do it just to look good naked, it's like not enough motivation anymore.
I already do look good.
That's right.
No need to finish the workout, Lance.
I'm done. Here we are. So, I mean, like this last year, I was kind of injured for a good part of the fall, and that just derailed like all my early season base building training. And so I ended up going to training camp like not very fit and just got crushed by the team. And that was a little demoralizing to go just get crushed by the team at training camp and then not do well in any of the early season races. Not that we have a whole lot of early season races, but it set up the whole year poorly for me. But so knowing that there's something on the schedule that I'm training for is definitely motivating for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, keeping something on the calendar. So
I feel like it's another thing that I don't do.
So you're out on that one?
Triathlon.com, I'm questioning you.
All right, the 4th tip, tap into your why. And I think we kind of already talked about that.
Look good naked.
Look good naked, yeah?
No, that's why I put a race on the schedule, so that I have a why that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Not just to be fit and try to look better, but also to, I want to do well in this race and not suffer so much during this race. That's not really true. Even when you're fit, you suffer just as much. You just go faster.
Yeah, but you also don't want to get dropped. I mean, if you're doing road race and you get dropped, that's about as demoralizing as it gets.
Yes.
When you're off the back and you're out there riding by yourself and there's no chance of you catching on, do you even want to finish that race?
There's no gruppetto in your local races.
No. That could be part of your motivation is just to stay with the group. I mean, we've had those kinds of just group rides.
Yeah.
I can remember when I first got into road cycling, I remember going out and riding with this group on Saturdays. And I showed up thinking, I'm going to do awesome. I'm this mountain biker guy and I can hang with these roadie guys wearing like all their skin tight Lycra stuff that I was actually wearing too, but there. Anyway, and I got dropped like a bad habit on the first couple rides. I was just like, these guys, like they're riding at a whole different level. I mean, granted, they were talented cyclists. I'm just call it that. And I couldn't keep up with them and I'd get dropped and like, I'm riding by myself for another, 10, 15 miles. And I slowly but surely just kept coming back and I slowly but surely was focused and I started doing some things differently with my training. I started putting in more miles. I started eating a little bit differently. I started doing some stuff. One thing that really helped me out was beetroots. I didn't know it until I actually started noticing some like huge gains. I'm like, what is so different? What is making this big difference? And it ended up being that. But long story short, I ended up not getting dropped, ended up hanging with them. And eventually, after a few months that had passed by, after like really kind of honing in on stuff, I started to be able to ride off the front and start being a part of some of the breakaways, and actually got into a situation where I was winning some of the big sprints for some of the big, sections, and I was dropping people before we even got to that. So that was a big motivating thing. That was my why. Why are you doing this? Because I want to be able to beat these guys, and I wanted to get faster on a mountain bike.
Sure.
But having that motivation kind of changes your paradigm.
Yes.
Like what's going on.
Very much.
Yeah.
I like that.
How do you tap into your why, Matt?
I don't know. I mean, I would lean heavily on what Lance said, which is like when you have a big race, and I think for me, it's like a race that scares you. Like that's huge. That's a huge why.
Gotcha. I guess if you're asking yourself, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
Then you don't have a good why.
It's true.
So again, putting something on the calendar or being able to have a measurable thing that you can see, and wanting that to be part of your why. Why am I doing this? Because I want to be able to keep up or beat or do whatever. I mean, you've got to have that on your.
So Matt, this has been a hard couple of years for you when you've had these Achilles issues. You had that wreck on the time trial bike that laid you out for a little while. But I mean, it's been hard for you to even have a race on the schedule. So, how have you kind of dealt with that, or how have you tried to deal with that?
I lean on my stupidity and positivity.
Okay.
Positively stupid, huh?
Positively, no, just like, I will get back. I'll do a race next year. I'll do blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, maybe it's not realistic. Maybe it is. But like, one of my like little goals was like, I want to do a sprint triathlon this season if it's possible after the Achilles surgery. And I felt lucky that it was, even if it wasn't like a great time or great performance or whatever it is. But, so now it's like, probably more towards the beginning of the next year where I can start to look and be like, okay, what is the next goal? Maybe it's just an Olympic race, and maybe I walk half of that also. Like, who cares? Like, I think I'd be fine with that, but like just something else that's a little bit more challenging. The problem I think I run into is that they're not as scary to me.
Like the Olympic distance isn't as daunting as doing an Ironman. You mean that?
Even a half Ironman race, like that might be a little bit scary for me right now, but like, it's just the fact that I've done so many of those in the past, like they're not super scary. And so, and all of those too, you're like, I want to do well in those races. And so that is like, I got to make sure I'm getting my sleep. I got to make sure I'm eating right. It's so much easier to, when you're tired at the end of the day, to like skip having a beer, like all those things. Right. When you're really scared of that big race, those are very helpful for staying on task. Whereas I think even like an Olympic distance, race, even though that would be a stretch for me, it's like, yeah, you're going to be sore that day or afterwards, but like, whatever, you don't have to skip the buffet line, fatty, like just keep eating.
Right.
So that's where I'm at right now. I think that there's other fun things that I want to do. It's just like that. I'm not sure I'm not signing up for anything that's like super, super scary at this moment. So,
well, I mean, you were an elite level athlete for so many years, and then to
one of the best in the world.
One of the best in the world, at least in your cul-de-sac, and that's a difficult thing when things start to break or things start to fall apart. How do you deal with that mentally?
So I think at some point, like, let's say you realize you're not going to run a marathon PR anymore, right? Like, and you're like, right. Well, cool. Well, hop in triathlon, and then that progressed really well. And although I was still never getting close to marathon PR times, right? Like I wasn't going to run sub 6 minute miles for a long time. It was just like, you could still go and do really well in a triathlon. And And so the fact that you're able to change gears just makes it that much easier in the future to change gears, right? Like maybe to adventure riding or gravel bikes or whatever. It's like, you can make changes because you've done it in the past. And so, again, also stupidity and positively stupid. Like, that's the key. That's the secret ingredient.
Well, I mean, that just goes to show, the kind of attitude you have about things, and that's a hard thing for people to have. I mean, that's why I think that's why a lot of people get into triathlon and do it for 3 or 4 years and then get out because they either stop progressing or they started as a master athlete to begin with. And they make all these PRs for a couple years and improve quite a bit for a couple years, and then the PRs stop coming, and they get less motivated, and they're like, maybe I'll just ride bikes for a while.
Yeah, and I think that's just. I mean, I feel like that's real for everyone. Like, I am way less motivated for triathlon than I was 5 years ago when I was, setting personal records, every race. But that's okay. Like, it doesn't mean that they're not fun to go do.
Right. No. You're absolutely true. Like this year for me, I mean, I'm not nearly as fit or as fast as I was last year. Just in 1 year, I mean, I had a rough winter of back problems and injuries, and then I gained weight, and then I couldn't lose the weight very well, and so then you show up at the races, and my kit doesn't fit very. I'm beefy instead of svelte. So then you're a little embarrassed and you're like, okay, I'm just going to race because it's fun to race. And then I do the race, and instead of vying for, the top, for the podium, I'm just trying not to be dead last or mid-pack.
Or you're trying to beat the person in front of you, right?
What's that?
You're trying to beat the person in front of you.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think, here's the thing. I think you and I are in the same boat, right? Like, injuries and things like that, and weight gain. It's like, life's not pretty, but it doesn't mean we are not going to have fun.
Right.
And I think what we need to probably remind ourselves is like, hey, still get out there, still do stuff. When you have negative thoughts, put them in, where they belong, which is in the trash or whatever. And, and keep moving forward and keep trying to have fun, because that's why we do this stuff. And hopefully motivation, comes and goes, and whether we can steal motivation from trying to do 100 rides in a row or from sort of raffle process, whatever, wherever we can get it.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. I mean, I've just tried to kind of steadily try to improve this year, and I have a little bit, but again, it's been more difficult. Because I'm getting older and stuff doesn't heal as well. And then occasionally you just don't unclip and fall over and break your ribs.
Hey, I'm back. Have you guys been doing Rock Talk?
No.
Rock Talk?
We've been having a very serious conversation about aging athletes.
Sorry, I've been trying to do 5 things at one time.
Jake got busy, so I started interviewing Matt about aging athletes.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I'll have to listen to podcasts to find out.
You have to find out what we talked about.
We're at about tip 5 now. So that one is dopamine jams.
Dopamine, that's my jam.
That's your jam. But I think fun is real. I think that there's been plenty of research showing yes, you put music on and you will ride faster.
Oh, 100%.
And I always, for big workouts, blast music. Even when we're doing our, whatever they are, our group rides on Zwift, I try to mute the conversation and blast music, especially when I'm getting dropped. Got to blast some music.
That's a good call. Does it surprise you to have me tell you that a lot of times when we go on the flogging rides or the gravel rides that I'm wearing my Aftershocks headphones, and you guys don't know it, but if I know that I'm going to go do something stupid or try and break off the front, seriously, I'll turn on music and I'll cycle through until I find a good song, and then that's when I go. That happened. I did it last night. 100%.
That doesn't surprise me.
And it freaking works.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, this is AC/DC just dropped. Better get ready to get on Jake's wheel.
Except we can't hear it, so we don't know that he's all of a sudden dopamine.
I have some like little LED display on my my back of my seat that tells you what's playing on Jake's headphones right now. Awesome. All right, so I'll let you guys not have to recap that whole dopamine jams. That's a good one. Do it anyway. Tip number 6: do it anyway.
That's a terrible tip. That's dumb.
Just suck it up, Buttercup.
Tryathlete.com.
Do we even need to talk about this one? Do it anyway. How's that a tip?
It's not. One of the things that I do that I think really helps me, Evan loves to bag on Trainer Road because he doesn't understand it and he hasn't looked at the science behind what their training plans entail, and he's also trying to sell his own coaching services. So I understand why he bags on it, but the Trainer Road workouts and the way that they have designed things has been incredibly helpful to me. So they really do have the best workouts that I have found online. I've done a bunch with Zwift. I've done a bunch with, I think I've just done a bunch with Zwift online, but the Trainer Road, the Trainer Road workouts are better. One of the things the Trainer Road workouts do is many of them have like motivating things for each interval as you're going through the interval. And so just trying to complete that interval is...
Can I go in and adjust those and put in stuff for you and give you some motivation?
No, you can't.
With some video?
No, it comes from
Flip you off a little bit?
Some flipping off video would be hilarious. But I have found that doing those workouts are extremely motivating. Just trying to get through the next interval, and they push you, and you get faster. I don't care who you are. You get faster if you're doing those Trainer Road workouts.
So...
the phrase of the day is, shut up, Evan. That's correct. Shut up, Evan. Trainer Road is worth it.
I don't know. It works for you.
It works for me.
When you
that's
do
a
it
good point.
and you're spot on with it, it works for you. I've tried it. I just feel like it's too much intensity. I mean, I like the workouts, but I need about, a quarter or a third of what they're prescribing in terms of like the sweet spot stuff, and coupled with some of the interval work. And it just felt like, all right, I can do this, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like a polarized program works for me much better. I feel like I get much better results. And there might be some times where I'd want to sprinkle in a little bit more of the intensity stuff, a little bit more of the sweet spot stuff. And then there's sometimes where I need to back off and just looking at a periodized workout. That works for me. So I don't know. Maybe Evan has a point for him that doesn't work, or I don't know. But for you,
it does work.
Proof positive. It works.
It works. Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I think I've tried Trainer Road. I think it works pretty well. I like their little motivational things that pop up. I don't know. I'm also okay like with my own really simple workouts.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that I always come back to is that, like, and I don't know if Evan's definitely, I wouldn't agree with this either, is that it's not necessarily the specific type of workout in the workout plan, in the blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not the super scientific stuff. It's the fact that you're doing workouts on a regular basis that makes you faster, and that having a plan is the fact, it's just like, just having a plan is whatever that is. Like, you make the plan, your mom makes the plan for you. And since it doesn't really matter, as long as there's a plan and you stick to it, you will get faster for the most part. And so I think about this a lot with like coaching high school athletes. And there's so many coaches that I talk to at these races, and they think that they're like God's gift to coaching teams. And I'm like, no, make kids run, have them do workouts, have them recover from those workouts, and they will race really well. It's not like rocket science. It's just a matter of like putting these, specific efforts in. Doesn't really even matter exactly what those efforts are. Yes, maybe like there's some small percentage of difference between, doing higher intensity stuff versus doing, more aerobic work and things like that. But it's like, no, you really just need to do the work, right? Like it's those workouts, like that's the stuff that's really detrimental.
Yeah, that's well put. And I think another thing to take into consideration too is having somebody hold you accountable, whether it be a coach or a training partner.
Yeah.
I think that those two things do wonders for people. I don't necessarily subscribe to the notion of like you need these high-end, fancy, like crazy built, all kinds of stuff thrown in the kitchen sink at you kind of workouts. I mean, you can keep it pretty straightforward and easy as long as it's periodized and it's going to show progression and you're going to layer things up and then you know when to take some rest. And, you know, if you're not getting like passion blind about this whole thing about, you know, like I'm going to do all this stuff and you're not realizing what you might be doing right or wrong, or getting into the notion of like just thinking or giving yourself an excuse, I guess, like, I'm going to just bag this one today. But if you've got somebody that's overlooking you and say, hey, what happened here? What gives? Why didn't you go hard? Or, hey, come on, keep up. Don't give up right now. Like if I go out and ride with Lance and we're going to go beat the snot out of each other, like I want to like bury him as much as I want to bury myself. And I know that that's going to be fun. So that's a motivating factor. But if I'm having an off day or if I'm being like, blah, he's going to kick me in the butt and I'm going to say, all right, I'll do this and I'll come out better on the backside of it. Yeah. So those couple things right there, I think make a big difference for people. So making sure that you have somebody hold you accountable is key, and have a good thought out program.
It doesn't have to be a coach or someone that's like staring at your workouts. It can just be like Jake said, like just meeting someone, just meeting up to ride is just, for me, that's enough accountability where it's like, oh, I said 6 o'clock, like we're going to do this at 6. We're going to do our, Zwift ride. And so that's enough.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Well, that's the end of their list. This was like, there's a couple things in there, little takeaways. Before we bag this one though, is there anything that wasn't on the list that you guys want to bring up, or you want to throw like, hey, this is like my honeycomb secret, or this works for me, or this is a great thing to keep me motivated?
Especially through the winter, if I don't have a prescribed workout, but I want to work out, joining a PacerBot group on Zwift is great. Yeah. Because you kind of, depending on which group you pick, you have to kind of focus a little bit to stay with the group. Mm-hmm. Some groups are obviously easier to stay with than others. If you challenge yourself and move up to the next group, you have to work or pay attention to stay with the group. And if that's the case, you're going to just do more work.
Do you guys ever use Strava as a way to make your brain think that you're going to like this workout because you're going to go out and do something that nobody else is doing that day, or do something that's a little bit bigger and better, or a little bit badder, or you're going to go out and get a KOM or something like that, and you're looking for that affirmation from people on the back end? I know for some people that drives them to want to go out and like, hey, look what I did today.
Oh, I absolutely do that. I'm completely guilty of that. Look at this cool place I rode today. Yeah. Oh, wait, I stopped on the drive home from Idaho on Monday and took a KOM that I realized I already had, which I didn't realize.
So if Strava did not exist and there was no way for you to post what you did on your ride, post any pictures for your ride, granted, you could probably post it on Facebook, but nobody on Facebook is going to care. Would you have stopped and done that?
I probably wouldn't have stopped. It was an hour and a half from home. Yeah. We were been driving for, 7 hours already. I probably wouldn't have stopped.
Not for nothing. Sometimes like posting stuff on Strava, I do for myself because I will be able to go back, and what they've started doing, which is kind of cool, is like, on this day last year, this is the ride you did.
Yes. Yeah.
And I like taking the pictures because I've told this before on this podcast. I use that Time Hop app, and it shows you what you did on this day last year, 10 years ago, however many years ago that you've got media that's attached to it. And that kind of stuff, I like that, the memory of that. I think that's pretty cool. So making the memory and putting it on Strava for me is kind of a cool thing.
Agreed.
And if people see that too, like, oh my gosh, you got to do that. And, tell me more about that. And, it's fun for people to watch what Lance is doing because he goes to all these cool places. And like, all right, that's place number 67 that I need to go see that Lance has gone and done without me. And I need to go do that now too. So, I mean, we thank you for that. But for you, I mean, does the whole Strava thing probably helps motivate you to go out and do what you do?
Or I'll ride in a new place where I think maybe not many people have ridden before. And there'll be some like section where I'll just go full out just to see how I stack up to anybody who's ever, been through that area. And then I realize nobody's ever ridden here before. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
What about on the trainer though? Spot. Would you ever do something on the trainer? I guess you can kind of call it flexing a little bit, but sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I went and did a century today, even though it only took you 4 hours sitting on trainer. But what if you're like, your name is Beef Mountains and you're like, yeah, I rode for 4 hours today and held 320 watts the whole time, something like that. I mean, Does something being able to post something like that
Yeah.
motivate you to get through a hard workout?
It would, yeah. Or like I want to ride 100 miles. I'm going to do it on Zwift with a pacer bot because I'll do it an hour faster than if I did it on my own.
Averaging 24, 25 miles an hour.
Right.
Yep. How about you, Matt? Do you have anything to throw at the listeners that you do that kind of gets you tricking yourself into liking your workout?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. Obviously there's a lot of stuff like, we kind of probably touched on this too, like go somewhere new, try something that you haven't done before. Stuff like that is extremely motivating. I think like if you try it, like Jake, you and I used to do this all the time where it would be like, we're going to go bike somewhere and we don't even know where that is. Like there's no agenda. It's just like, go right. And those I think are just super fun.
Yeah.
So
That's a good way to enjoy it. There are some times that I will deprive myself of stuff because I didn't go do my workout. If I miss my workout and say my wife wants to go out to dinner, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have salad for dinner. I don't deserve to have something a little bit nicer or a little bit more calorically dense because I don't want to, have those extra calories sitting on me. So I will take away the ability to have that, or maybe a glass of wine or whatever it might be if I didn't get the workout done.
Interesting.
So that's just kind of like if you want to do something, you got to get this done first, That's probably my last thing to add to this conversation.
All right.
Lance, you done? Anything else?
Nope, I'm done.
Which was Matt, you done?
got it. We're good.
Cool. Moving on to one last thing, Matt LeGrand. We'll, as usual, we're going to start with you.
Well, Apple announced they have like a new phone and a new Apple Watch. I'll try to get one to review because I'm going to try to cover trying to limit some of the things that I cover, but I'm trying to think like anything that really does triathlon. I'm going to try to keep those going. And if things don't really pertain to triathlon, I'll try to eliminate it. But yeah, so I'll try to review the next Apple Watch as that comes my way. And the Zwift actually announced hardware.
Yeah, I saw that.
You guys saw? Yeah.
They got a new trainer, right?
Yeah, well, looks like they purchased another company, and now they're white labeling it, or maybe they purchased it and they're putting their brand on it now.
Exactly. They've modified a brand or bought, something. They did make some modifications that look pretty good. And the big point for that one is the fact that it's a $500, direct drive trainer. And I think that that's going to, really, because you're looking at $300 more for anything else on the market in that kind of $800 range. And they've done some other things with the purchase process to kind of make it a little bit easier for new buyers, as in you don't, the cassette's going to come with it and the cassette's going to come on there and it'll help you decide what stuff to choose. And, they've got these little pamphlets that help you decide which through axle to use, all this stuff to make it easier for new riders to get on a bike trainer and ultimately onto Zwift. Because I think that they can basically not take a loss necessarily, but break even on this stuff, not looking for huge profits on the trainer itself because they want people to subscribe to Zwift. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's well played. I do like the fact that they give you the option to choose what kind of a cassette you want, whether it be an 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12-speed cassette. That is pretty cool because right now the trainers that come with a cassette generally are coming with an 11-speed cassette, and you don't have any other choice. The only one that kind of differs from that a little bit would be like a Kicker Core that doesn't come with a cassette at all, so you can kind of just factor in what you need to get and go purchase it, which kind of sucks because right now some cassettes are really hard to get. So
yes,
it's super interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think that the motivation is to, I think Zwift knows that they have the high end market covered, and they're trying what can you do to grow? Okay, we really have to target newer people to cycling and getting these people there. And these are people that, they're going to struggle to take their rear wheel off, and they're definitely going to struggle to change out a cassette. And they're going after that group of people pretty aggressively. Yeah. So I'm interested what this is going to do to, companies like Wahoo that sell the Wahoo Kicker Core, or some of the other brands out there that have more affordable trainers. Is that going to just go away? Or are we going to have, high end stuff and then this Zwift trainer? I have no idea. It's called what's it called? The
Hub?
Zwift Hub. Yeah, the Zwift.
So you can put that squarely in the same category as a Kicker Core. The Kicker Core, I think, has a little bit more oomph behind it. It's got a bigger flywheel. I think it's got a better simulation for higher grades. And I think that it's got a higher watt output as well. So, across the boards, I think it's better. But for the most part, like I'd say 90% of the people will never touch any of those parameters, and never really need them. And making that price point be $500 and be $400 less than a kicker core,
That's big.
Yeah.
that is very big. And Wahoo's probably going, oh, crap.
Yeah.
So, why would somebody choose to buy a kicker core for $400 more that does not come with a cassette as opposed to this one? I don't know. Now, I did watch DC Rainmaker's video this morning, and he did say that they're having all kinds of firmware issues and accuracy is way off, but they have about a month to get that sorted out because it's not going to come to market until then. You're not going to be able to purchase it until then, and I'm sure that they're going to make that right between now and then.
They will. They'll fix that. I have no doubt in my mind that they'll have that figured out by the time that this thing is actually like shipping, because the trainer that it's built on is a pretty solid trainer, basically. And so it's just they've messed something up, probably to do with some calibration pieces. But yeah, I have a feeling they'll have that fixed in no time. And I think that this will be very interesting to see what the rest of the market does, because I don't know if any other company can match that kind of price range. We'll see. I mean, Wahoo theoretically has other things that they can sell in addition to trainers, right? So they could, have a product that kind of maybe not takes a loss, but also kind of has a low profit margin if they really want to push their own like training platform stuff. So
Gotcha. There will be some announcements from Wahoo soon. Can't talk about them right now, so just stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of trainer talk coming up across all of the interwebs, so there's going to be lots of new things dropping, and it's going to be Trainer Wars, Matt. Trainer Wars.
Trainer Wars. We should get a shirt.
Interesting.
Shots fired. I'm just curious, how does Wahoo respond to that? I don't know. I mean, they're not going to be doing... I don't think they're going to go direct to consumer. I mean, granted, you can purchase it directly from them, but their network is built on working with all their dealers, and I don't see how they can go toe to toe. Do they change thing with their system? It's right now, it's the same price. I think it's better value than Zwift in terms of what you get for it. But I mean, do they go the other way in terms of like the monthly carrying costs of maybe making that a little less expensive? Like, would you choose a more expensive trainer that supposedly has more options and it does more things? Now we don't know what's going to happen. They're so overdue for a kicker core release, but would you choose a nicer trainer with a training platform that's going to cost you, say, $5 less a month?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's smart for Wahoo to have made a big investment in their like Wahoo X training program. It does offer a lot, and I think it's cheaper. And then they also have trainers. So you buy a trainer, you're probably going to get like a couple months free or maybe a year free or something like that. And so I think that this is, like you said, it's Trainer Wars time frame. And the other part of it is the fact that the consumer marketplace is so saturated already. I feel like everyone that needs a bike trainer already has one. Mm-hmm. There might be this situation where we're coming up on like, I now need a second one. But I think that that's pretty slim pickings for these companies that want to sell a lot of bike trainers. I think that for the most part, there's a lot less demand right now.
There is. Now, there's going to be probably a fair amount of people wanting to come over from Peloton. Peloton seems like they're not doing so hot. So, nope. I mean, those people may have very well fallen in love with the whole Peloton concept. Who knows what's going to happen with that company? I know that they're starting to dip their toe in other waters, but maybe they want to try something that's more cycling-centric. Who knows? And maybe Zwift is the way to go.
Maybe.
I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned. Yeah. Cool. Good one. Matt, thank you. Lance, go.
Our next big cyclocross race this weekend, this Sunday, is Corn Cross, the second event in the Harvest Cyclocross Series. It's in Boring, Oregon, which is the best named town in the state of Oregon.
Yep.
And it's around... What's that?
Matt, you cut out. Say again.
Oh, I said there's a LeGrand, Oregon.
Oh, there is also LeGrand, Oregon. I drove through there Monday. This is a fun race. It's always very good. It goes through a cornfield. Last year it was a complete mud fest. This year it is going to be hot, dry, and dusty. So it'll be a very different race from last year. So
interesting.
Come do the race.
Cool. My one last thing, we kind of already talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and finalize it, and we'll put it out there right now. We're going to do the Dialed 100 again, and it will be starting on September 23rd, and we will finish on New Year's Day. That should be interesting. Now, generally speaking, we say that trainers count, like trainer rides count. It has to be for at least an hour. Do you think we should say, if you're going to ride on the trainer, because, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit more accessible. Maybe push out the time. Maybe instead of being 60 minutes, it needs to be like 75. I don't know.
That's interesting.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I think go outside, it should be more time, and when you're on the trainer, it should be less. Because, think about it. When you get to an hour outside, you're like, oh my gosh, has it already been an hour? When you're in an hour on the trainer, you're like, oh, good God, let me off of this thing.
Exactly. So motivating people to, get all bundled up and get their bike all ready and go ride outside. You can ride for technically less and enjoy it a little bit more. I don't know. We'll see. It might just be an hour. I'm just speaking out my cornhole right now.
It might be very hard for me to do this year.
Because you're going to be in Europe.
I'm going to be in Europe for most of November.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I'll do some riding there, but I don't know if I'll be able to get it done I know I won't be able to do it every day.
You're renting bikes. You already told me.
I do. So. I will be renting bikes, but part of it will be on a cruise ship through the Greek islands.
And I'm sure they're going to have a stationary bike on there.
There will be a bike on the boat.
So this will keep you in check, right? This is your why.
This is it. Yeah.
This is your why.
All right.
All right, boys. Anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
I'll do it.
Sweet. All right, we do appreciate everybody listening. We will be back next week with another one. And until then, bye for now.